Like most weeks, Friday was most awaited. I went out to lunch with friends. It was four of us. One was on his phone and Ranveer was daydreaming. Adya and I, on the other hand, were starving as usual, so we ordered a shrimp starter. Since Adya and I were the sole non-vegetarians on the table, we devoured the starter as soon as it hit the table. And that I say with pride. After a while, we realized Ranveer sulking. Now let me tell you a bit about him. He's an animal activist. He used to eat non-vegetarian food but converted into a vegetarian since he started empathizing with animals, which we knew. But what we didn't know was that he was upset because we chose to eat seafood in front of him. Even though Adya apologized and tried to better his mood, I was annoyed. All I could think about was how unreasonable and childish he was being. I didn't bother. He could have bawled his eyes out and I wouldn't have batted mine. I completely appreciate his morals and I'm proud of how he managed to change his diet entirely. But at the end of the day, that's just not how you behave. It was his choice to become a vegetarian. It's mine to stay a non-vegetarian. Our lunch was ruined because of his temper tantrum, and for what? Because he chose to eat things I don't? What if I created a scene if he ordered a pumpkin starter? I love pumpkins. I think they're the cutest little orange things that should only be used for Halloween decorations. They deserve better than being cut up into tiny pieces and to be eaten. Yet that doesn't give me any right whatsoever to be that effective if someone else chooses to have it. After I was back home, I thought to myself, that is it actually this bad to be a non-vegetarian? Am I seriously the only one who isn't afraid to stand up for themselves? That too for a personal preference? That's when I decided that I have to look into it and figure out what exactly to say if this kind of situation arises again. So that's what I did, and here's what I would say. I'm a non-vegetarian because I choose to be one. But let's talk about the facts. Since the time of hunters and gatherers, the human race isn't supposed to have a diet consisting of plants and leaves. We are meant to be carnivores. There's a reason people go on living just fine without an appendix. We thought that the appendix didn't have a purpose, so to speak, where if we faced medical issues regarding that organ, we could just get rid of it and be alright. Yet scientists have found evidence suggesting that an appendix indeed has a role to play in specific situations, one of them being used to digest leaves. The sesame, an appendix substitute of some sort in a few herbivorous animals such as horses, cows, koalas, appears to support this hypothesis. These animals need their appendix-like organ to eat and digest grass and other plants. This insinuates the fact that we can go on fine without an appendix purely because our diets do consist of meat or seafood. Moreover, carnivores' jaws move only up and down, enabling them to tear chunks of flesh from their prey. Humans can not only move their jaws up and down but from side to side. We also have flat molars which allows us to grind up vegetables and fruits as herbivores do. This describes limpidly how a human's diet should include both meat and vegetables. After saying all of this, I can just start pressuring Ranveer into eating non-vegetarian food and eventually start sulking when he says he won't. However, I'm 15 years old, so unfortunately I can't throw temper tantrums anymore. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I don't just want to prove that all sorts of diets can be supported ethically, but I also wanted to propose a global food revolution. Doesn't that sound heavy? Trust me, I wrote this, I know it is. That's why let's start out with something lighter, like a slice of bacon before the entire barbecue rib. What is sustainable eating? It begins with sustainable agriculture that enables us to produce healthy foods without compromising the future generations' ability to do the very same. After which comes sustainable eating, that is choosing foods that are healthy not only for our bodies but for the environment as well. Now, what are ethical food practices? Put in a comprehensible sentence, ethical eating involves being mindful or aware of the economic issues, environmental concerns, and industrial influences that may have resulted due to the food on your plate. It's essentially focusing on what you do eat rather than what you don't. The ethical food production includes the consideration of people, workers' welfare, whether from big farms, small farms, producer cooperatives, plantations, the environment centered on sustainability, and animals mainly concerned with their rights and welfare. A lot of time when people convert to vegetarianism, it's mainly due to the fact of them thinking that it's not an ethical practice. There are other reasons like health and religion, of course, but ethics seem to be the biggest push factor. However, ethics is the first casualty of this because most vegetarians and vegans don't really care about ethical farming practices. Do we stop and ask about how organic products are? What is the carbon footprint of a jar of peanut butter? Are we supporting local farmers? Instead, we're supporting GM seeds. No one seems to be asking these questions yet still believe that converting to veganism or vegetarianism is enough. Dr. Vandana Shiva, an Indian environmental activist, once said, "We would have no hunger in the world if the seed and land were in the hands of the farmers and gardeners." This is exactly what ethical farming is all about. This is where it should start and grow from. Something as basic as how we're able to eat carrots and peas all year round when they're both winter vegetables in tropical countries like the whole of South Asia is baffling. In its particular season, fruits and vegetables can provide all the vitamins and minerals our body requires. It's wise to eat the fruit and vegetables in its specific seasons for a higher nutritional value. They're fresher, they're cheaper to purchase, and supports your body's natural nutritional needs like cooling stone fruits during summer months, vitamin C rich produce to prevent flu and colds during winter months. The most essential reason being that it is using pesticides and chemicals or GM seeds to not only help the produce last longer but also to quicken the process of plant growth. The usage of these methods have terrible impacts on the environment, right from decreased fertility in the soil or hardening the land to contaminating the water table and even consuming that poison. A prime example being the number of cancer cases in Punjab and Haryana. So if you want to be ethical by being a vegetarian or a vegan, this is precisely where you should begin. For these very reasons and what we've been experiencing during this pandemic, it is the need of the hour to bring about a change in the present food supply system. There's no use in eating organic maple syrup coming all the way from Canada if you're going to have a tremendous carbon footprint. Growing, processing, and distributing food locally creates and sustains jobs, provides health benefits, reduces environmental impacts, and boosts farmers' income. That's simply why we need to eat food that is local or developed in our own countries. In a similar manner, another thing we don't realize about vegetarians or vegans is that they too can waste food, and they do. More than 20% of produce are estimated to be thrown away for cosmetic purposes such as unusual shades, unexpected shades, or blemishes on a peel that you don't even eat. Even if they are just as nutritious, just as tasty to consume, that's 1 in 5 fruits and vegetables that are discarded into landfills. In India particularly, 21 million tons of vegetables and 12 million tons of fruits are wasted each year. First of all, nature is and always has been imperfect. The concept of perfection is not attainable in a physical world, so we cannot expect plants of any kind to grow in a specific aesthetically pleasing manner. Due to this need for sleek, unblemished, and perfectly proportioned fruit and vegetables, the chemicals used to create these cosmetically accurate produce can result in a lack of vitamins, fiber, and minerals. Fortunately, a trend to accept these ugly foods has ignited businesses like Imperfect Produce, a food delivery program based in San Francisco that supplies ugly fruits and vegetables that would normally go to waste to farms. There are special farmers markets held for these fruits and vegetables and are sold for nearly half the original prices. Hungry Harvest sells low-cost boxes of these fruits and vegetables and surplus produce. Boxes are packed with these fruits and vegetables and are often discarded due to aesthetic imperfection or logistic inefficiencies. Another box is donated to needy families for every box sold. This actually reminds me of a song by Joni Mitchell that puts things into perspective very succinctly. Hey farmer, farmer, put away your DDT. I don't care about the spots on my apple. Leave me the birds and the bees. Okay, now that the tedious bit is done, let's move on to the more interesting part, where I prove that non-vegetarian is in fact ethical. Let's start off with the slow food movement. It is a global campaign aimed to inspire individuals to avoid consuming fast food and instead take their time to consume whole, locally sourced food, not only for nutrition but also for the preservation of culture and heritage. It was founded by Carlo Petrini as a reaction to a McDonald's restaurant that opened in Rome, seeing it as a threat to native food traditions. The movement has 3 goals: taste education, defense of biodiversity, and interaction between food producers. As a whole, it promotes food that is fresh, healthy, seasonal, and local. Now, the farm to table concept. It is a social movement that encourages serving local food at restaurants and school cafeterias. There are health benefits to the farm to table idea, and it is environmentally friendly as well. Also known as the farm to fork, the proper application of the trend can be traced back to America in the 1960s. Fundamentally, there are 6 stages. Raising the animals, so if you want to be sure if the meat you're buying is from humanely raised animals, get to know your food labels. stunning and slaughter, where animals are usually stunned before they're killed to keep them from experiencing pain. The animal remains calm during this process, not just for ethical reasons. Adrenaline ensures that stressed animals make harder meat, so bruised meat should not be sold. Even installing blue lamps to calm poultry. Next is butchering, when the animal's pelts or feathers are removed first. The carcass is to be dressed and the innards are to be removed. For food safety purposes, workers have to carefully avoid rupturing the innards or getting any bacteria on the meat. Then is grading, where the meat is given a grade according to muscle mass, fat deposits, and an overall size with a government certification. Followed by the actual cutting of the meat, and then ultimately packaging, distributing, where the meat is put into plastic bags, vacuum sealed, gets boxed, and sent out to restaurants and stores for purchasing and consumption. Another method that is being used is the nose to tail philosophy. It was a top trend in 2018 and is a strategy of using any aspect of the animal in food preparation, letting nothing go to waste. It is also one of the most economically and environmentally sustainable ways to approach working with meat, apart from its appeal as a more conventional diet. From Goan households to restaurants in the UK to weddings in Nagaland and the Chettinad cuisine, different cultures present different inclusive animal preparations with varying colors, flavors, and textures. Chefs like Thomas Zacharias, Siddharth Kashyap, Dan Barber, Nick Gaylor, and Ken Simons are a few known culinary examples that choose to follow the nose to tail dining methods to not only show respect to the animal but provide a nutritious meal by using all parts of the animal. It ensures that the resources that went into creating the animal are not wasted. One can make their meat consumption more sustainable and ethical if the animal is used to its full potential, fewer parts go to waste, and fewer animals are slaughtered. These are three of the many ways non-vegetarianism is evolving for the better. Better health, better environment, better food, and better world. Clean eating is the only way for humankind to continue surviving. It is the only way to ensure a future for all of us. We need to adopt more ethical food practices to lead sustainable lifestyles. We need to look past our idea of perfection and accept reality. The reality in which nothing is perfect. The reality in which the diet you follow shouldn't matter, but the manner in which produce is procured does. Therefore, the global food revolution I propose today is threefold: acknowledging flaws in existing diets, optimum use of produce, and thinking globally but eating locally. Thank you.